What's up? It's James from James's Reptiles, and today I'm going to be talking about breeding crested geckos. You want to jump? You want to jump? Oh, he's doing it. Oh, he's just reaching. Okay. Crested geckos. If you're getting into breeding and you want to find something that's really easy, or you just like them in general, it's literally the easiest reptile to breed. Maybe you have some and you just want to get into breeding them, just without any detail, just kind of throw them together. So what I mean by that is, if you have a male and a female in separate enclosures, you just need one big enough. I'm pointing at mine even though you can't see it. I have an 18 by 18 by 24, and I have a trio in there. I wouldn't recommend more than one male because you obviously they could stress each other out and fight, but it doesn't matter how many females as long as you feel like they have enough room. I probably wouldn't put more than one more in there. I probably wouldn't recommend that, but I personally wouldn't put one more in there. And ambient room temperature 76 to 78 maybe. I mean, my room gets as cool as 72 at night and when the air's on, and with all my other reptile lamps in the room it can get up to 82, and they breed just fine. Now, I don't recommend having a lot of substrate at the bottom. That's how the enclosure was given to me, and there were a lot of eggshells dried up and some eggs in there that were good, and they hatched out babies actually. But I took all that substrate out and I put like a thin layer at the bottom just so if they fall, they don't fall on straight glass. And I put a lay box, which is basically like a thick Tupperware. It's one of those square, thick Tupperwares, and you drill a hole or cut a hole with a razor blade or something. I'm not worried about sharp edges, and a lot of people are probably fearful of that. I've seen many geckos rub against them, thousands in fact, and I've never seen an issue. And I filled out with Eco Earth and some other stuff like a little bit of moss, maybe a couple pebbles, just realism. Pebbles probably not the best idea, but whatever. And I will take the female and I'll put it in there a couple times, and they'll be like, oh, this is a nice spot to dig. And then when the male gets her pregnant in the night and she decides she's ready to lay her eggs, she'll be like, what's a good place to dig? How about that Tupperware I saw? And they'll just do their thing if you leave them in there. If you leave them in there long enough, they'll do their thing. I say probably give them a month and then check the egg box. And after that, you might want to check it every 2 weeks, depending on if you find them or not, especially if you have 2 or 3 females. You definitely want to check it more often. I usually check just every time I feed, which is literally every other day, but you never know. Especially once they go off season and then they go back on, you really want to make sure you catch that first one, because that could totally mess up your season. That could make or break it if you miss the first 1 or 2 clutches. It's a good idea to watch their behavior too. You'll see a lot of different behavior in breeding. And another thing you'll see is aggression. Now, of course, geckos fighting and geckos being aggressive and biting each other is not a good thing. But in terms of breeding, it's just part of nature. Every animal is extremely aggressive when mating, and to put it in a certain way, if the male is so aggressive he's able to mate the female will submiss and let him mate. Like, oh, it's obviously a strong male, he vested me, I want his genes in my genes, and we'll make the best babies, because that's what animals want. So if your male does his thing, then they'll fight, and then eventually the female will just let him. And one thing you can see right here, he has no tail. A lot of geckos, when they breed, they lose their tail. Now, I've never had an adult lose its tail. I've had one baby lose its tail, but I've never grown an adult to breeding size and then tried to breed it. I got all mine without tails, and that's just how it goes with breeding. So if you have a pet that you don't want to lose its tail, it's probably not the best idea to breed it. But if you want its offspring, you might take that chance. This right here is my breeding male Skipper. Camera doesn't do it justice. I mean, the lighting in the room kind of makes it look a little yellow. But he's a partial pin. He's got a real cute head shape and a kind of little bit up nose. Very nice gecko with very big crest. I actually have a lot of people offer me money for him, and he was just given to me, and he produces a lot of like high gray babies, like light gray. It's really beautiful. But I'll probably never sell him. I'll probably just keep him forever as a nice one, and probably eventually put him with some pinstripe girls and try to get all pinstripes and mostly pinstripes that look kind of like him. One thing I think is probably my favorite part about crested geckos is the eyes. The eyes on crested geckos are so beautiful. Let me see if I can get them up close. It's not going to want to focus though. He's going to want to jump on the tripod. Yeah. Anyway, if you want to breed crested geckos, I highly recommend it. Incubation for eggs is literally room temperature. Maybe not if you live in like a really cold, like your parents keep it really cold. You might want to pick like a warmer spot, slightly warmer. You don't want them to cook or nothing. And incubation period, about 2 to 2.5 months usually. I wouldn't worry if the eggs don't hatch or they don't pip. I would recommend just leaving them just in case. And you never want to cut an egg and accidentally cut it too early. I'd rather the egg just go bad. It just makes more sense. And crested geckos can actually get a little bit more aggressive towards you during breeding time too. You can just see he tried to like nip at me, but I am touching his face. So that's about it. You will see your females get pudgier, and you'll also be able to palpate them, which basically means if you pick them up and you rub your fingers on their stomach, you'll be able to feel the eggs when they're about ready to drop, which I think is really fun. Now with leopard geckos and a lot of fat tails, you can actually lift up the back tail, and when you stretch their stomach out a little bit, you'll be able to see the eggs through it. That's really interesting. But crested geckos are extremely easy and extremely fun to breed, and they're one of my favorite animals to work with. I just hate taking pictures of them. They never want to let go of your hand. This is my boy Skipper, and we are out. Never mind. I'm James from James Reptiles. Hit me up on Instagram, on Twitter, jamesreptiles@gmail.com, James Welter on Facebook, and like, subscribe, comment, tell a friend, and enjoy the rest of your day. I'm gonna go eat some hamburger helper.